I constantly mention that I attended architecture school in my videos, to the point that it may appear tasteful to some of you. But I haven't really provided a clear picture of situation I've learned and I retained during my 4 years struggling toward an undergraduate bachelor degree in architectural science. I post a lot of having graduate university, but really, I don't have much to show for this. This degree doesn't mean anything. I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere at my parents' house. It neither represents my accumulated knowledge nor my ambition for architecture. It merely serves as a reminder of how many years I can endure hating myself. True, I've forgotten a lot of what I learned after over 10 years, but even at the time, I didn't have much faith in my ability to pursue the industry when I decided to fully commit to YouTube and content creation. I mistakenly think that if I completely fail and only make 10 cents a month, at least I'll have architecture to fall back on. But the truth message was, please let's do this work. I'm not interested in pursuing career in architecture. I hate it. I want to make dumb animations, please. Architecture wasn't really plan B. It was more like plan L. So when I say truly appreciate your support of my work and allow me to self-sustain from my videos, I really mean it. Thank you all. That's really awesome. So, how much did you retain from architecture school? Oh, let's see why. Alright. Well, I cried at least 17 times. I remember one of the first lectures. We have our profile shot of all of us for not knowing what this structural element is properly called. Anyone know what that is? Right there in the middle of the room. What that's called? A post? Nope. A pillar? Wrong. A beam? Nah. A vertical beam? No. One more try and fit my shoe to one of you. A structural vertical beam column. No. It's called a column. How do you guys not know this? Gosh. I'm pleased my tuition paid for someone to mock me for enrolling in a program to learn about subjects about which I have no prior understanding. Form follows function is the most important thing I learned from what constitutes a good building design. The nature of architecture is to create spaces that are based on people's interactions with them. The building's overall design should relate closely to the intended function or purpose of spaces inside it. If you construct a structure in the shape of an origami paper crane and submit it to a professor for feedback, they will calmly tell you it's crap and then spit on your grave because you no longer align to them. Even though seeing a paper crane building may appear cool and Instagram-worthy, it's unlikely to sit at a structure. You got awkward corners everywhere, making awkward rooms for people to fit into, which means a bunch of waste space and wasted construction materials and costs. So, what is even going up here? It's just a tall, empty space? Or are there awkwardly shaped single rooms that screen every story until you get to Sniper Tower? How do you even get up there? Standard elevator don't move dynamically, and stair won't fit without the engineering threatening to place a bounty on your head for this ingenious design. Simply put, if difficult to construct, it's probably a lousy design, whereas a paper crane can serve as inspiration. Architecture is much more than just interesting visual concepts. It's a museum in Toronto called the Royal Ontario Museum. Every chance they get it looks like this, and you might be thinking, oh, it's cool, right? It's got some very unnatural shapes, and it's interesting how it superimposes on the surrounding structures. It stands out as a very touristy, but that's all, it stood out. Once you go through architecture school, you never look at buildings the same way ever again. You know how much my professors hate Rome? They took us on a field trip to the Rome to show on its design during the tour. Wow, look at all these awkward corners. Wow, look at all this wasted space. Wow, look at this useless hallway that leads to a dead end. Wow. They are brutal. But they were right. Some people might feel like square and rectangular design buildings are basic and boring. But really, it's those kind of spaces that usually feel the most comfortably in. What the hell are you gonna do with a spiritual room? Where does your door go? How are you going to arrange your furniture to fit without having customized them? Are you gonna have curved glass windows again? Remember, form follow function, and the engineers and construction workers have your head on a bike. You don't think about how a structure will look before cramming all of the necessary rooms inside. Of course, you bear in mind your overall space constraints. However, you must design from the side inside out. An exterior will finally take shape, and finding the best arrangement in relation to intriguing forms is what distinguishes good architects from paper crane designers. Top views of the spaces, part and views of spaces as you was cutting through it, and elevation walls are available. Standard scales is always included in side views. When showing drawings from 1 to 73 is not typically a scale. People understand this part of the roof of a building is called a parapet, and it's quite really annoying to draw in the cross section. Either you drew your drawings on the presentation board by hand, or you did it on a computer and spent $90 to print it. Starving artists and starving architecture students get along, and avoid using glue guns for your models. It doesn't dry nicely and sometimes leaves those spiderwebs, glue bits as mentioned before. Keep the engineers in mind. You have to make your design stand. If you think a 20 or 20 meters room can hold up without any columns, enjoy having your ceiling collapse. Exterior walls are much thicker than you think because of insulation flooring is much thicker. And west-facing windows give harsh lighting because of sun bathing, which can slightly be mitigated with overhangs. But north or south-facing windows give diffuse and more comfortably lighting. Always account for accessibility, and design ramps need a slope of about 1 to 12 symmetry is cursed. It's not necessary to have two stairways that lead to the same place. I had the impression that these are primarily used for prom shots and lastly for at least that is all I think of right now. Or is this door should be open outwards. You get trampled and indirectly kill someone in the future. Now, here's the part of the video when I try to see the bright side of things and recognize the true lessons I learned. Because the difficulties were required for me to grow as a person and end on a positive note. However, I hate architecture school and blame it for my insomnia.
Hello, my name is Alicia and I have a stutter. I have had it since I can remember, and my parents have done everything to help me overcome it. I have seen more speech therapists than I can count, but nothing has worked. I'm really shy and hate speaking in front of people I don't know well. I got through my first few years at school by not saying much and not calling attention to myself. But when I was 11, I transferred to a large school with hundreds of students, and it was scarier. The boys in my class were aware of my stutter and would tease me every time I opened my lips. This made my life a living hell, and I eventually stopped speaking altogether. This year, we had a new English teacher at school, and he is very enthusiastic and passionate about getting people to perform plays and poetry in class. Needless to say, I began to hate English for this reason, and I began to make excuses not to go. I would always conveniently be ill every Tuesday until my mother noticed and forced me to go. Our teacher told us that we would have to perform a poem in front of the class at the end of the exam. This was my worst nightmare come true. I went to speak with him at the end of class to attempt to explain why I couldn't possibly do that, but I couldn't get the words out because I stuttered so badly. I was so nervous about performance that I didn't know how I was going to accomplish it. One of the lads overheard and continued shouting "sir" to me for the rest of the day. My favorite topic was music. I could play the piano and was fairly excellent at it. If I was practicing on my own for one day, I could play a song from the show Lion King. I enjoy playing songs from musicals because I could imagine the actors on stage screaming their hearts out to my play. My English teacher complimented me on my play as he walked by. My cheeks flushed. He then proceeded to ask me a question. He requested that I sing along with my play. I rejected, but he told me to stick with him and give it a shot. So I did. And I didn't stutter. More importantly, I sounded great. When the day of the poetry performance arrived, everyone was worried since the grades we received would be used in our college application. It was eventually just me who had to go. As I stepped onto the stage, some of the boys started laughing and said I would never be able to do it. I just smiled to myself. I tried to read my poem, but I couldn't get the words out due to excessive stuttering. In my throat, my heart was stuttering. My palms were all sweaty, and I was dizzy from being so frightened all of a sudden. What if I'm not able to do this task? After all, I got down to the piano and started playing the music I had written to accompany my poem, and I started singing like nothing else was important. The words came naturally to my lips as the music flowed through my fingers. The audience was stunned by how different I seemed on stage. At the conclusion of my performance, I was in my element. The audience was silent for a while before erupting in applause. That was the last time I was bullied and even had my stammer brought up. In fact, I was cast in the lead role in the school musical, and my confidence has risen to the point where my stuttering has significantly improved. Who knew that all I had to do to succeed was to attempt things from a different angle? Please share your thoughts and experience in the section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed the video.